Could this 10mm ball joint, could this possibly be the best modification I have made to this van? Let's find out. To be clear, you're going to need a few more bits than just this ball joint. You're also going to need a bracket, like this L-shaped bracket, and a gas strut. I've put a link in the description box below to all of the components that I have bought for this little job. Because for less than 60 quid, you can make the back doors of your van do this. Ha! That's pretty cool. So before I get into loads of detail about how to make this modification, I'm just going to explain the reason why I've done this and why it could be really useful for you when you're building your van. I wish I had have done this at the beginning of the build instead of after the van's been built, because it would have changed the way that I had done a few things in the back of the van. Let me show you. So as you can see here, this is some sort of strap. It basically stops this door from completely swinging out when you open it. So it locks on this mechanism here. You can lift this up as you open the door, and then this door can completely swing 270 degrees around the side of the van, which is useful if you're a builder. Not so useful when you've got a box and you've got these pods, because what's obviously going to happen is the door is going to swing open and then hit the pod, which you don't want. Normally, these little magnetic things would stop that from happening, but I've now got a big box in the way. So that's not useful, but these straps, they are useful in stopping the door from swinging all the way open. Then you can literally lift that open and it will allow the door to swing completely free. This side is not too bad. Because we've got the cabinet, effectively this strap will just hide in that corner. Yeah, I had to adjust the inverter to move it slightly out of the way to allow it free access without crushing any of the components inside. However, on this side, which is where our 3-year-old sleeps, as you can see, his pillow is right where that strap is. So what happens when the door closes, that strap disappears off into all this insulation. Now, there's nothing there other than literally insulation. However, this area here eats into quite a lot of the space where his pillow is. And we have heard him in the middle of the night hitting his head on that a few times, which is, poor little fella, not very comfortable. So the plan is, if we could put a gas strut from there to there, that means I can get rid of that, and it will stop the door from swinging completely open. So as you can see here, I've already added the gas strut on the right hand side, and if we follow it along, it then bolts neatly right into there, neat and nice. So to do this job, you're going to need to remove the bolt that goes in here, which is using a Torx bit. I think it's a T25, yeah, T25 Torx bit, just like that. Remove the Torx screw and replace with your ball joint screw, which, as you can see there, sits in quite neatly. And the reason we've got a fairly long thread on here is to allow enough tension and make sure it doesn't snap whilst in the thread. This is an M6 ball joint. I'm sure there's a better terminology for it. Do you know what? I'm also going to stick a washer just to make sure it's nice and neat. So there we go. There's our ball head, washer, and in it goes. That doesn't need to be too tight, just enough, just to make sure we've got a nice secure position for our gas strut. So the next thing you're going to need is this bracket. I don't actually know what it's called. Like I said, it's in the link below. It's kind of like an L-shaped bracket, and as you can see, I've made this hole slightly bigger, and the reason for that is to allow just enough space for the bolt to go through. And then we're going to remove these 2 bolts and then mount it just there, like so. So this is a 900mm gas strut, and it is 100 Newton meters of pressure. I bought this off eBay from a company called Best Automotive or something like that. The actual supplier is YTT Automotive, made in Turkey. As I say, what you're going to need a 900mm gas strut, and make sure it's 100 Newton meters. You can get them all the way up to like 2000 Newton meters, but that's way too powerful for these doors. 100 Newton meters is absolutely fine to push the weight of the door, even if you had a load of kit hanging off the back doors and spare wheels and all that kind of stuff. So roughly this tube section I think is about 500mm, and then this section is about 400mm. So compressed, all in, it's the perfect distance, the perfect length between the hinge point and when the door's closed, and then extended, again, it's the perfect length between the hinge point and the bolts down the bottom of the door. So let's get this installed. The other thing you're going to note is the gas strut comes with these ball heads already attached, and there's like a little pin that you need to clip off. So you literally just twist it. I'll show you. There we go. Twist it and it slides out. It's this pin here. You can see that. So that's the bit you need to take out, and the ball joint will pop off, and then you can put this back on to the van. But don't lose this little clip, because I have already dropped one and then spent 15 minutes trying to find it on the mess of my garage floor. So next up, we're going to mount that end on that ball clip, and this end on the mount that we've added onto our door just there. Okay, I'm actually going to lift this one up ever so slightly on the left hand side. The reason being is that this section here is just knocking on the plastic, and I can't push it down any further. So I'm going to lift the ball socket up ever so slightly. And to do that, I'm going to add this little spring washer onto here, and then screw it back in. Hopefully that will just lift it up enough for the gas strut to clear this plastic threshold. Like I said, these don't need to be too tight, just as long as they're mounted neatly. Yeah, that's a bit better. See how it popped up then, and we should be able to get the clip into place and lock it all in. Would help if I did it the right way. There we go. That is not going anywhere. Neither is that. That opened up quite quickly, but now it means at least I can get rid of this strap by literally unbolting those two bolts, or 3 bolts, and get rid of this bracket. Although it does mean I'm going to have to just recarpet that, but the pillow should cover it. Get rid of that strap, and the door's not going to go any further out because of the gas strut. It's a little bit firmer to close, but at least it works. Obviously there's more weight on that door than there is that door, but eventually we'll get a tyre rack on there. Get rid of this, what I call the door dildo. And there we go. Look at that. Very happy with that. And there we go. We don't need these anymore. They can just go up to my nice collection of van bits. So that's where the old bracket was. And just under his pillow, that's where it connected to. Obviously we've still got that hole right there, but at least this pillow can cover that, and not really going to notice any difference. So as you can see, by just adding that gas strut, we've able to ditch the bracket, which basically means our little one has got a little bit more headspace for when he's sleeping down on his bunk. As I said at the beginning of the video, I wish I'd done this at the beginning of the van build and not now, because then I wouldn't have a hole in my wall and I would have made a nice clean template out of wood and then carpeted it and covered it in the fabric. But it is what it is. Only I really know it's there. If I ever want to put the bracings back in, then at least I know I've got that opportunity. So there we go. Thank you very much. Please like, please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I've got plenty more videos coming very soon. As I said, I've put all of the links to the products that I've used in this install below in the description. You can click on them, you can buy them. But I genuinely think that this is one of the best modifications for under 60 quid that you can do to your camper van. Obviously different vans will require different lengths of strut depending on how big your doors are, so please measure them accordingly, but essentially it's the same principle. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Boom.